Hey everyone, so you can't tell from right here, but this tree and this tree, these really strong trees are causing us trouble. You see, the problem is if you were able to see all the way up there, these trees are kind of overhanging our house a little bit, and there are some branches at the top of this tree that are rubbing against the roof of our house. And I thought, you know, what we really need to do is just come in here and get someone to trim off those trees, right? And it seems simple enough, but then I was told, well, we can't do that during this time of the year. You have to wait until November because the kinds of trees they are, if you start trimming those trees, they're gonna all die, and it could cause all of them to die. So I had another tree guy come out and he says, well, you know what, looking at these trees right here, what I would do if I were you is I would cut down both of these trees. And I'm thinking, man, that's a lot of tree just to cut down because it's touching my roof, and I don't know, I don't feel comfortable about that. And you know, actually, so here's the thing, I kind of have a flashback about taking down trees. You see, back when I was a kid and we were living in San Diego, my dad wanted to take the tree out of the front yard of our house. And it was a eucalyptus tree. And so what Dad did was he dug all around the bottom of the tree, around the roots, and broke a few of the roots on the outside. And then he said to me, now Scott, I want you to climb up into that tree and I want you to give it a good shake. Because see, the thing is that I've loosened the roots, and now if you give it a shake, what's going to happen is it's going to begin to slowly fall, and then we'll chop more of the roots down. And I thought, you know, Dad, that doesn't sound real safe. But you know, I mean, I'm trusting my dad, right? I mean, that's what we're supposed to do as kids. We trust our parents. And so I trusted my dad, and I climbed up in that tree, and I got all the way up as far as I could get. And Dad says, okay, now I want you to lean back and give it a good shake. And so I did that. I leaned back and I gave it a good shake down front. And the next thing I know, that whole tree, just me and everything, bam, right onto the ground. I could have been killed. Well, not really, but you know, I think about that. And I remember afterwards, Dad saying to me, you know what I think? He says, I think eucalyptus trees don't have as deep a roots as oak trees do. See, Dad grew up in northern Indiana, and they used to take down trees like that all the time. And the difference was those eucalyptus trees, those roots were so shallow, it was a surprise they could even stand up. Because, you know, here's the thing, as much as you see of this tree, if those roots aren't strong, it's going to die. And once you have a problem with the roots, the whole tree is going to go down. And as I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about this darn tree that we got to figure out how to keep it from touching my house, I found this scripture. It's from Jeremiah. And you know, Jeremiah was talking to a people that were headed off into exile. And they're headed off into exile because they had left God as the one in whom they trust. And they started to trust in other gods. And because they were trusting in other gods, specifically trusting in idols made by human hands, their whole nation was beginning to deteriorate. And so Jeremiah at one point says this. This is in Jeremiah chapter 17, verses 5 through 8. He says this, thus says the Lord, cursed are those who trust in mere mortals and make mere flesh their strength, whose hearts turn away from the Lord. They shall be like a shrub in the desert and shall not see when relief comes. They shall live in the parched places of the wilderness and inhabit salt land. Blessed are those who trust in the Lord, whose trust is in the Lord. They shall be like a tree planted by the water, sending out its roots by the stream. It shall not fear when heat comes. Its leaves shall stay green. In the year of drought, it is not anxious. It does not cease to bear fruit. You hear that illustration and that difference? This idea that those who trust in things other than God are like those bushes that are planted out in the desert where there can be no nourishment. But those that are planted by the stream, those who trust in the Lord, are like that. And they're able to send their roots deep down into the ground to get the nourishment that they need. You know, I was thinking about that, and on the one hand I thought, you know, does that mean that I shouldn't have trusted Dad? Well, maybe not when it comes to cutting down trees. I mean, obviously I should trust my dad. That may not have been his forte though. But it really does illustrate this idea that really when it comes to trust, it's a very precarious thing to trust in anything other than what God tells us to put our lives into, where God tells us to plant ourselves, where God tells us to find nourishment, where God tells us to find strength. If we begin to look in other places, Jeremiah said, like the people of Israel, as they began to do that, they began to wither and die, and they could not withstand all the struggles that come. I mean, that thing about this verse, when the heat of the day comes, when the drought comes, they're not anxious because their roots are deep. You know, somehow we've got to figure out how to have deep roots in those places that God has called us to live our lives, those things that God has called us to find our meaning. And so, as you think about that this week, imagine, where are you getting your nourishment? Where are you getting your strength? How deep are you going into this love and understanding of God as the one you trust?